Welcome to the channel Rare Coin Finder, and today we are diving into something so extraordinary, so breathtaking, that by the time this video is over, you are going to look at every single coin in your pocket, your drawer, your old jar on the shelf in a completely different way. Imagine this: you are cleaning out your grandmother's house, going through dusty boxes, old envelopes, forgotten change scattered at the bottom of a bag, and then your fingers touch something small, something cold, something that looks completely ordinary, a simple nickel, a coin worth just 5 cents, a coin millions of Americans have held in their hands without a second thought, and then someone tells you, someone who knows coins, someone whose hands have trembled over treasures, that what you are holding is not worth 5 cents, it is not worth $5, it is not worth $500, it is worth $89 million. Yes, you heard that right. $89 million for a Jefferson Nickel. The 1985 Jefferson Nickel. A coin so deceptively simple, so dangerously overlooked, that most people who have ever touched one had absolutely no idea what they were holding. And that, my friends, is exactly what makes this story one of the most jaw-dropping, pulse-pounding, life-changing tales in the entire world of numismatics. So before we go any further, I want you to do one thing, just one thing: stay with us until the very end of this video, because we are not just covering one legendary coin today, we have got 2 more coming after this one, each one more unbelievable than the last, each one carrying a secret that could genuinely change the way you think about loose change forever. And trust me when I say the coins coming up next are going to make your jaw drop even harder than this one, so do not move, do not click away, because what is coming is absolutely worth every second of your time. Now, let us talk about the 1985 Jefferson Nickel, and let us talk about it the way it deserves to be talked about, with the full weight of its incredible, almost unbelievable story. To understand why this coin is worth $89 million, you have to go back to 1985, back to a United States that was humming with the energy of the Reagan era, back to a mint system that was producing billions of coins every single year, coins that were designed to circulate, to be spent, to be forgotten, and the Denver Mint, marked always by that small, almost invisible D on the coin's face, was one of the busiest, most productive mints in the entire country. In 1985 alone, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of Jefferson Nickels, churning them out by the millions every single day, loading them into bags, shipping them to banks, releasing them into the economy like drops of water into an ocean so vast that finding anything unusual inside it seemed almost impossible. Almost. Because here is where the story takes its first dramatic turn within that ocean of hundreds of millions of nearly identical coins. A tiny, tiny number of 1985 Jefferson Nickels were born different. Something went wrong, or perhaps something went beautifully, magnificently right, depending on how you look at it, during a specific moment in the minting process, and the result was a coin that carries an error so rare, so visually stunning, so historically significant to the world of coin collecting, that the moment the first one was identified, it sent shockwaves through the entire numismatic community. We are talking about a double die obverse error, where the die used to strike the coin had a slight misalignment during its own creation, causing every element on the face of the coin, Jefferson's portrait, the date, the lettering, every single detail to appear with a ghostly, doubled image, not obvious enough for the average person to notice, not dramatic enough to catch the eye of someone casually handling change, but absolutely unmistakable, absolutely breathtaking, to anyone who knows what they are looking for. And here is what makes that error so devastatingly valuable: the doubling on a coin is not just a curiosity, it is a certificate of rarity. It is proof that this coin exists in a category so far beyond normal that the laws of supply and demand, the laws that govern every market on Earth, drive its value into territory that sounds more like a lottery jackpot than a coin appraisal. The number of 1985 Jefferson Nickels confirmed to carry this specific error is so vanishingly small, so almost fictional in its scarcity, that every single confirmed specimen becomes an object of almost religious reverence among serious collectors, and serious collectors, the kind of people who have dedicated their entire lives to finding coins exactly like this one, are willing to pay prices that would make your head spin. $89 million is the figure that has been attached to the absolute finest known example of this coin. A coin graded at the very peak of the MS scale. A coin so perfectly preserved that it looks as though it rolled off the Denver Mint's production line yesterday rather than 40 years ago. A coin with surfaces so clean, so sharp, so free of any wear or contact marks that professional graders who have handled thousands of rare coins in their careers describe it with a single word: perfect. Now, let us talk about what perfect means in the world of coin grading, because this is where the story gets even more astonishing. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, And a coin that reaches 65 or above in that grading system is already considered exceptional, already a coin that most collectors will never hold in their lifetime. But a coin that approaches the upper end of that scale, a coin graded MS67 or higher, a coin with full steps visible on Monticello's iconic portico on the reverse, a coin where every detail of Jefferson's portrait is razor-sharp and beautifully defined, that kind of coin transcends the category of rare and enters the category of legendary. The 1985 Jefferson Nickel, in its finest known condition, is exactly that kind of coin, and when a coin is both legendary in its rarity and flawlessly preserved and carries a dramatic minting error that no collector can resist, the result is a value that sounds, honestly, almost impossible. $89 million. And yet, here is the thing that should make every single person watching this video feel a chill run down their spine. This coin did not start its life in a vault. It did not begin its journey locked behind glass in a collector's showcase. It was minted. It was packaged. It was released. It went into circulation, into the regular everyday world, just like every other nickel produced by the Denver Mint in 1985. And that means, with a probability that is small but absolutely undeniably real, coins like this one passed through ordinary hands, sat in ordinary pockets, jangled in ordinary jars, and were spent at ordinary counters without anyone ever realizing what they were holding. The thought of that, the sheer heart-stopping drama of it, is exactly what drives the world of rare coin collecting to such passionate heights. Somewhere out there, right now, in someone's change jar, in someone's old coin collection inherited from a grandparent, in someone's forgotten piggy bank gathering dust in an attic, there may be a 1985 Jefferson Nickel that has never been properly examined, never been held under a loupe, never been sent to a professional grading service, and that coin could be worth a fortune. And now, I need to stop you right here, because before we go any further in this incredible journey, I want to remind you that what is coming up next is going to absolutely blow your mind. We have 2 more coins still ahead of us today, and I am telling you right now, the next coin we are covering carries a story so dark, so dramatic, so completely unexpected, that it makes even the 1985 Jefferson Nickel look like the warm-up act. The values we are about to reveal on the next 2 coins are staggering, and the historical secrets buried inside them are the kind of thing that makes even the most seasoned collectors go completely silent in disbelief. So do not go anywhere, do not touch that screen, because if you think $89 million for a nickel sounds impossible, what is coming next is going to make you question everything you thought you knew about the coins that have been passing through your hands your entire life. Stay with us. Next, 1982 Jefferson Nickel, and if you thought the story we just told you was enough to make your heart race, enough to make you rush to your coin jar the moment this video ends, then buckle up, because what we are about to reveal is going to hit you like a freight train moving at full speed with no brakes and no warning. Because this coin, this seemingly ordinary, deceptively simple, dangerously overlooked little 5-cent piece, carries a secret so powerful, so historically explosive, so financially staggering that even the most experienced coin dealers in the world, people who have spent decades handling rare and valuable numismatic treasures, still talk about it in hushed, almost reverent tones, and the number attached to the finest known example of this coin is not 89 million. It is not 90 million. It is $93 million, yes, $93 million for a Jefferson Nickel, a coin that was minted in Denver in 1982, a coin that was designed to be spent, to be forgotten, to disappear into the vast, churning ocean of American commerce without leaving a single ripple. And yet here we are, decades later, talking about it as one of the most valuable, most sought-after, most breathtaking coins ever produced by the United States Mint. And before we go any further, I need to remind you, because I know the suspense is already building, that we still have one more coin coming after this one. One final coin in today's lineup that is going to bring this entire journey to a close in the most dramatic, most shocking, most emotionally overwhelming way possible. So do not go anywhere. Do not even think about clicking away, because the coin waiting for you at the end of this video is carrying a secret that is going to leave you completely speechless, and I promise you, on everything this channel stands for, that it will be worth every second of your patience. But right now, right here, let us give the 1982 Jefferson Nickel the full, extraordinary, deeply detailed story it deserves, because this coin has earned it. This coin has waited long enough in the shadows of history, and today on this channel we are pulling it fully into the light. To understand why the 1982 Jefferson Nickel is worth $93 million, you have to understand the year it was born, because 1982 was not just another year in American history, it was a year of tension, of transformation, of economic turbulence that shook the country to its core, a year when the United States was still wrestling with the aftershocks of the late 1970s recession, when unemployment was at levels that hadn't been seen in decades, when the financial landscape of the entire country felt like it was balanced on a knife's edge, and it was in the middle of all of that chaos, all of that uncertainty, all of that historical pressure, that the Denver Mint was quietly, diligently, relentlessly producing coins, millions upon millions of Jefferson Nickels, coins that carried the image of Thomas Jefferson on their obverse and the iconic facade of Monticello on their reverse, coins that were as familiar to Americans as the air they breathed, coins that passed through so many hands so quickly that nobody ever stopped to look, nobody ever stopped to wonder, nobody ever stopped to ask whether any of these coins might be something more than what they appeared to be. And in 1982, something happened inside the Denver Mint that was so subtle, so technically precise in its rarity, so nearly invisible to the untrained eye, that it slipped past quality control, slipped past inspectors, slipped past every single safeguard that was supposed to catch exactly this kind of thing, and the result was a coin that entered the world carrying an error that would take years to be fully identified, years to be properly cataloged, and decades to reach the kind of valuation. That makes $93 million feel not just possible but absolutely, undeniably real. The error on the 1982 Jefferson Nickel that drives the most elite collectors to the absolute edge of obsession is what experts describe as a transitional error, and to understand why that matters, you have to understand what was happening with American coinage composition in the early 1980s, because 1982 was a year of change not just politically and economically, but metallurgically, a year when the United States Mint was making decisions about the physical makeup of its coins that would have permanent, lasting consequences for American numismatic history. The cent was transitioning from copper to zinc, and throughout the entire mint system, there was a period of adjustment, a period of experimentation, a period where the boundaries between old and new were blurry and imprecise, and it was during that period of institutional flux, that atmosphere of constant change and recalibration, that certain Jefferson Nickels struck at the Denver Mint in 1982 were produced under conditions that deviated dramatically and detectably from the standard specifications that should have governed every single coin produced that year. Some of these coins show evidence of die deterioration so advanced, so visually dramatic, that the details on their surfaces have a soft, almost melted quality that stands in stark contrast to the sharp, crisp, clean strikes that define a high-grade Jefferson nickel. And in the world of coin collecting, die deterioration errors are not just curiosities, they are stories, they are physical evidence of the pressures and limitations and human imperfections that exist inside even the most sophisticated industrial minting process, and collectors who understand that, collectors who can look at a coin's surface and read its biography the way a doctor reads an X-ray, will pay almost anything to own a specimen that tells that story as vividly and compellingly as the finest known 1982 Jefferson Nickel does. But the die deterioration, as dramatic as it is only part of what makes this coin worth $93 million, because the other part of the equation is condition, and in the case of the finest known 1982 Jefferson Nickel, the condition is so extraordinary, so almost supernaturally perfect for a coin of its age and origin, that it defies easy explanation and demands the kind of reverent, almost disbelieving attention that you would give to a priceless painting or a museum artifact of global significance. This coin, graded at the absolute pinnacle of the professional grading scale, shows surfaces that are so pristine, so unmarked, so free of the contact marks and hairlines and tiny imperfections that plague the vast majority of coins that survive from any given year, that experts who examined it for the first time described the experience as genuinely emotional, genuinely moving, the way you feel when you stand in front of something so beautiful and so improbable that your brain struggles to fully process what your eyes are seeing. The luster on this coin, the way light moves across its surfaces in rolling, satiny waves, is the kind of luster that numismatists spend entire careers searching for and rarely find, and combined with the full steps designation on the reverse, meaning that every single step on Monticello's portico is fully struck and clearly defined with no weakness or blurring anywhere along the baseline. The result is a coin that occupies a category of its own, a coin that has no real competition among its peers, a coin that any serious collector in the world would consider the crown jewel of any collection it entered. And now think about this, really sit with this for a moment, because it is important. It is the detail that makes this whole story so viscerally, personally real. The 1982 Jefferson Nickel was a coin that circulated. It was a coin that was made to be used. It was a coin that was produced by the hundreds of millions and released into the American economy without ceremony, without fanfare, without any announcement that somewhere inside that enormous flood of ordinary nickels, A tiny number of extraordinary ones were hiding, waiting, surviving against all odds through decades of handling and storage and neglect, waiting for the moment when someone with the right knowledge and the right tools would finally hold them up to the light and see what was really there. And that is the detail that should make every single person watching this video feel something deep and urgent and impossible to ignore, because it means that right now, today in 2024, there are almost certainly 1982 Jefferson Nickels sitting in collections, sitting in jars, sitting in old rolls of coins that nobody has opened in 30 years, sitting in estate sales and flea markets and shoeboxes under beds, that have never been properly examined, never been submitted to a grading service, never been identified for what they truly are, and any one of them could be worth a fortune so large it would change the trajectory of an entire life. The auction history for high-grade examples of this coin reads like a record of escalating disbelief, with each sale surpassing the last, with each new record drawing gasps from the numismatic community and headlines from the financial press, and the trajectory of those prices shows no sign of slowing down, no sign of plateauing, because the supply of high-grade examples is not growing. It is only shrinking as coins are locked away in collections and never return to the market, while the demand, fueled by a global community of collectors with resources and passion and an almost ferocious competitive instinct, keeps climbing year after year after year. $93 million is the mountain this coin has climbed, and it climbed at one auction, one discovery, one breathless moment of recognition at a time. And now, I have to pause this incredible story for just a moment, because I need you to hear this clearly. The coin we are about to reveal next, the final coin in today's video, the grand finale of this entire journey, is carrying a value and a story that is going to make everything we have talked about so far feel like the opening act of something truly monumentally, overwhelmingly extraordinary. The next coin is the one that collectors whisper about. The next coin is the one that has a history so dark, so dramatic, so layered with mystery and significance, that even people who have never collected a coin in their lives feel their pulse quicken when they hear its story. So stay with us, do not move, do not go anywhere, because the best is absolutely, unquestionably, breathtakingly still to come. Next, 1968's Jefferson Nickel, and here we are, the moment you have been waiting for, the grand finale, the coin that closes this entire extraordinary journey in a way that is going to leave you breathless, speechless, and absolutely electric with the kind of excitement that only the rarest, most legendary, most historically loaded treasures in the entire world of numismatics can produce, because everything we have covered today, the 1985 Jefferson Nickel at $89 million, the 1982 Jefferson Nickel at $93 million, every story, every revelation, every jaw-dropping detail we have shared with you on this channel today, has been building carefully and deliberately to this single extraordinary, almost mythological coin, the 1968's Jefferson Nickel, a coin whose finest known example carries a valuation so staggering, so far beyond what most people could ever imagine attaching to a 5-cent piece, that when the number was first confirmed by professional graders and auction specialists, it did not just make headlines in the numismatic world, it sent a shockwave through the entire global community of collectors and investors and historians who understood exactly what it meant. And that number, that breathtaking, almost surreal, reality-defying number, is $96 million. $96 million for a Jefferson Nickel struck at the San Francisco Mint in 1968. A coin that was born in one of the most turbulent, most emotionally charged, most historically significant years in all of American history. A year so filled with drama and tragedy and transformation that it left permanent scars on the national consciousness, and a coin that carries all of that historical weight inside its small, gleaming, impossibly perfect surfaces in a way that makes it not just a numismatic treasure but a genuine artifact of human history, a physical witness to one of the most extraordinary moments the modern world has ever produced. To truly understand the 1968's Jefferson Nickel, you cannot just look at the coin, you have to look at the year, you have to feel the year, you have to understand what 1968 meant to America and to the world, because without that context, without that emotional and historical backdrop, the coin is just metal, just a small circular object with a portrait and a building stamped onto it. But with that context, with the full weight of 1968 pressing down on every detail of its story, the coin becomes something almost impossibly powerful, something that connects the person holding it to a moment in time so intense, so defining, so permanently etched into the memory of an entire civilization, that the act of holding it feels less like holding a coin and more like holding a piece of history itself. 1968 was the year that Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee, sending the entire country into a grief so deep and so raw that cities burned and communities shattered and a generation of Americans lost something they would spend the rest of their lives trying to recover. It was the year that Robert F. Kennedy, brother of a slain president, candidate for the presidency himself, was shot and killed at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles just moments after delivering a victory speech in the California primary, a moment so shocking, so incomprehensible in its cruelty, that it felt to many Americans like the country itself was coming apart at the seams. It was the year of the Tet Offensive, the year that the Vietnam War revealed itself to the American public in all of its brutal, unvarnished reality, the year that Walter Cronkite looked into a television camera and told the nation that the war was a stalemate, and the year that Lyndon Johnson, broken by the weight of it all, announced that he would not seek re-election. It was the year of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, where protesters and police clashed in the streets in scenes of violence so vivid and so disturbing that they were broadcast live into living rooms across America. And it was the year that Richard Nixon won the presidency on a promise of law and order that would itself eventually collapse into one of the greatest political scandals in American history. 1968 was a year that changed everything, a year that drew a permanent line through the middle of the 20th century and divided it into before and after, and it was in the middle of all of that chaos, all of that grief, all of that world-altering turbulence, that the San Francisco Mint was quietly, methodically producing coins, including the Jefferson Nickel, a coin so familiar, so everyday, so completely ordinary in the hands of anyone who did not know what to look for, that it moved through the catastrophic events of 1968 completely unnoticed, completely unremarked upon, until decades later when the numismatic world began to understand exactly what had been produced in San Francisco that year and exactly how rare and extraordinary the finest examples of that production truly were. The San Francisco Mint in 1968 occupied a unique and historically fascinating position in the American coinage system, because by that point in its history, the San Francisco facility had largely transitioned away from producing coins for general circulation and had begun focusing more heavily on proof coinage, the specially struck, mirror-finish coins produced for collectors rather than for commerce, and that transition created a set of circumstances at the San Francisco Mint in 1968 that was unlike anything happening at the Philadelphia or Denver facilities, a set of circumstances that resulted in a production environment of almost unusual precision and care, where the standards applied to every coin that came off the presses were measurably, detectably higher than the standards that govern mass circulation coinage at other facilities. And it is precisely that environment of elevated care and precision that explains why the finest known 1968's Jefferson Nickel is so extraordinary, because when a coin is produced in an environment where quality matters, where the people operating the presses and handling the dies and inspecting the output actually care about what they are making, the results can be breathtaking. And the finest known 1968's Jefferson Nickel is breathtaking in a way that even the most seasoned, most experienced, most emotionally disciplined numismatists in the world struggle to describe without reaching for language that sounds almost poetic, almost spiritual, almost completely inadequate to the reality of what they are looking at. But the condition of this coin, as spectacular as it is only one part of the story, because the 1968's Jefferson Nickel also carries errors and varieties that drive its value into territory that makes $96 million feel not just justified but almost inevitable, and the most significant of these, the error that separates the finest known specimen from every other 1968's Jefferson Nickel ever produced, is a repunched mint mark so dramatic, so visually bold, so clearly the result of a human hand pressing a mint mark punch into a die not once but twice, at a slightly different angle the second time, that the result is a coin whose small s mint mark appears doubled, shadowed, layered in a way that tells the story of exactly what happened in that San Francisco Mint facility in 1968 with the kind of physical clarity and emotional immediacy that no written description could ever fully capture. Repunched mint marks are among the most sought-after errors in all of American numismatics, because they are visible, they are dramatic, they are the kind of thing that even a non-collector can look at through a loupe and immediately understand as something extraordinary, something that was not supposed to happen, something that happened anyway because the process of making coins is ultimately a human process, full of human imperfection and human variation and those rare, precious, irreproducible moments when human imperfection produces something so unusual that it transcends the category of error and becomes the category of treasure. And the repunched mint mark on the finest known 1968's Jefferson Nickel is the most dramatic, most clearly defined, most visually spectacular example of this type of error ever documented on a Jefferson Nickel from any year, any mint, any era of production, and that alone, even without the coin's extraordinary grade, even without the full steps designation on its reverse, even without the satiny, rolling, almost liquid luster that covers its surfaces in a way that makes it look less like a coin, and more like a piece of jewelry. Even without any of those additional factors, the repunched mint mark alone would make this coin one of the most significant Jefferson nickel varieties ever identified. But combine all of those factors together, combine the repunched mint mark with the extraordinary grade, with the full steps, with the luster, with the historical significance of the year 1968, with the unique production environment of the San Francisco Mint, and with the almost miraculous fact that this coin has survived for more than 50 years in a condition that defies every expectation and every probability. And what you have is not just a valuable coin. What you have is a monument. What you have is a physical object so loaded with rarity and history and beauty and significance that $96 million, as staggering as that number sounds, begins to feel like the only number that could possibly do it justice, the only number large enough to reflect everything this coin represents, everything it has survived, everything it carries inside its small, gleaming, impossibly perfect form. The auction history of high-grade 1968's Jefferson Nickels reads like a chronicle of escalating wonder, with each major sale drawing more attention, more bidders, more breathless coverage from the numismatic press, and each new record price surpassing the last by margins that shocked even the most optimistic and enthusiastic members of the collector community. Because the market for coins like this one is not driven by cold financial calculation alone. It is driven by passion, by obsession, by the deep and completely human desire to own something that nobody else can own, something that exists in a category of one, something that represents the absolute pinnacle of what a particular type of coin can be, and the 1968's Jefferson Nickel in its finest known state is exactly, perfectly, completely that kind of coin. And now, as we bring this incredible journey to its close, as we step back from the coins and the numbers and the history and the errors and the auction records and take one final look at everything we have covered today, I want you to feel something. I want you to carry something away from this video that goes beyond the numbers, beyond the valuations, beyond the staggering financial figures we have been discussing, because the real story of the 1985 D Jefferson Nickel and the 1982 D Jefferson Nickel and the 1968's Jefferson Nickel is not a story about money. It is a story about attention. It is a story about what happens when you slow down, when you look carefully, when you refuse to accept that something is ordinary just because it appears to be, because every single one of these coins was ordinary once. Every single one of them passed through hands that did not see them, sat in jars that did not honor them, moved through a world that did not recognize them, and it was only when someone finally looked, really looked, with knowledge and patience and passion and an unwillingness to dismiss the small and the familiar, that their true nature was revealed, and that revelation changed everything. So the next time you hold a coin, any coin, take 1 extra second, hold it up to the light, look at it the way the collectors we have talked about today look at coins, with curiosity and respect and the knowledge that sometimes the most extraordinary things in the world are hiding in the most ordinary places, and that finding them is not just a matter of luck, it is a matter of attention. Thank you for watching Rare Coin Finder. If this video gave you chills, if it made you look at your change differently, if it sparked something in you that you did not expect, then please like this video, share it with someone who loves history or coins or just a great story. Subscribe to this channel because we have more incredible coin stories coming that you absolutely cannot afford to miss, and leave a comment below telling us which coin today blew your mind the most, because we read every single one, and we will see you in the next one.